On behalf of my fellow Sedgwick County Commissioners, thank each and every one of you for attending today. I want to acknowledge the elected officials in attendance, including Senator Jerry Moran. Good morning. Senator Moran sponsored the renaming bill in the Senate. Congressman Ron Estes. Congressman Estes sponsored the renaming bill in the House. Mayor Jeff Longwell. Mayor Longwell has been a steadfast supporter of this renaming effort. Also, I want to announce that in our audience today we have a number of elected officials, including from City Council, Councilwoman Tuttle, Councilwoman Claycomb, Councilman Clendenin, and Councilman Fry. Also in attendance joining me today from our County Commissioner is Commissioner Pete Meitzner and Commissioner Jim Howell. And also in the audience is Kelly Arnold. Have I missed any of our elected officials today? I'm sorry. We have a state representative with us today. Thank you. It's a great day to recognize a public servant who served the community from disaster flooding. This event is timely, given the weather that we've recently experienced. The rainfall record has been a reminder for all of us that MS, Mitch Mitchell, affectionately known as Big Ditch Mitch, is a local hero. The Wichita-Valley Center Floodway project diverts excess water around the city of Wichita. It is one of the largest diversion projects in the nation, spanning 18 miles long, with 50 miles of connecting channels. It contains 100 miles of levees and 150 control structures. It has saved lives. Mr. Mitchell was the supervisor of the project, but he was more than an engineer. Before his time in Wichita, he served in the United States Air Force, my favorite branch, by the way, where he taught survey and drafting classes. After World War II, he surveyed most of northern Africa looking for military bases that were covered in sand. Mr. Mitchell was the area's flood control maintenance supervisor for the City County Flood Control Office from 1958 to 1963. He was Assistant Superintendent of Public Works, Maintenance, and Flood Control Superintendent from 1964 to 1979. During his career, he would also act as the chairman of the Stormwater Management Advisory Board, the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission, and served as the president of the Park Board. Mitch was a visionary leader, a visionary public servant, and the Flood Control Project is a legacy public works project in our community. No doubt that during this extremely wet spring this summer, this signature flood event control project has again served our community. It has proven to be a great investment. Over the years, it has ensured the sustainability and growth of Sedgwick County. In May 2017, to honor Mitch Mitchell's leadership on the project, the Sedgwick County Board of County Commissioners and the Wichita City Council issued a joint ordinance and resolution requesting the project name change. That brings us all here today. I want to thank our partners, especially Congressman Ron Estes, for serving as the lead sponsor on this project for the renaming of the project in Mitch Mitchell's honor. And now I want to introduce a partner in this project during this effort to rename the project, Mayor Jeff Longwell.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning to all of you. It's great to see such a wonderful group of people here to help us honor someone who very deservedly we owe so much to. I will simply say it's nice to do this celebration in front of the Mitch Mitchell plaque, which he was still around when we were able to do that. And it's even better that we're standing on dry ground. Mitch was a longtime advocate for Wichita. His work was obviously influential in many improvements, none more visible than the Big Ditch. It even earned him his nickname, Big Ditch Mitch. Mitch was linked to most of his life to projects involving the Arkansas River. He rose in ranks, as Chairman said, from engineer to City County Flood Control Office from 1949 until the completion of the Wichita-Valley Center Flood Control Project in 1959. With the assistance of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, he developed a cross-section plan for the Arkansas River and directed construction of this channel that circles the city. It certainly wasn't easy. Wichita consistently incurred costly, inconvenient, and even dangerous consequences of the flooding in town. As he staked out plans for the ditch, he was often threatened. The stakes he would put down would be plowed over by residents. He was cursed at, shot at, and received a wave of criticism for his efforts. Some residents at the time thought the project was a waste of money and that the city had other projects that they should be focused on. Some didn't like how it was supposed to look. Some thought it wasn't needed, that leaders at the time were wasting their time, or it was just political maneuvering. Thank good none of that goes on today. It bears some resemblance for the criticism that we face today for big projects, but it goes to show that with perseverance and good planning, together we can come together to make great things happen for our communities. We owe much debt to Mitch, much gratitude for pushing and seeing this project to fruition. Mitch was a personal friend of mine and later became my appointee to the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission, a little bit by the urging of Bob Aldrich, but it was a great choice. And Bob has always been a great friend of the family. So I also want to thank Senator Moran and Congressman Estes for their support in renaming this ditch. And it's certainly my pleasure to have prepped the stage for Congressman Estes, and I get to introduce our esteemed Congressman Ron Estes.
Well, thank you, Mayor Longwell. I appreciate the opportunity to get here and to talk about this this monumental project and just the benefit it's been for our community. Excuse me. As the mayor said, it wasn't necessarily an easy task that Mitch had to do to actually back in the 50s when a lot of this was still countryside, to look at what the impact was and change the dynamic of our community. Most of us aren't old enough to necessarily remember all the devastating impacts of the flood, but you can think back through, in 1923 flood, 600 city blocks in the city of Wichita were underwater. In the 1944 flood, there were 5,000 different individuals that were out of their homes because of the floodwaters. Over and over again, that type of issue impacted our community. We've seen most recently in the last 2 months, what the impact would have been on Wichita just to have that kind of devastation flow through our community. So, when Mitch came after a stint in the Air Force and using his knowledge and capabilities from there, using his civil engineering degree from Wichita State, he was able to recognize that this was a project that not only was worth doing but was needed to do, and took the lead. Again, as the mayor said, a lot of danger in that in terms of people that make threats, people that didn't necessarily want this project to move forward. But when you look at the benefits and look at where we are today, the project itself cost $20 million. The 1957 flood or avoidance of the flood was estimated to have cost $10 million if the floodway had not been here. And so just seeing that over and over again, that benefit that's happened over the last half a century, protecting our community, not just protecting the property that existed, but also helping make sure that we could maintain our way of life, maintaining commerce, maintaining the quality of the community that we had. When Mitch passed away in March of 2017, there were a lot of local leaders from the county and the city that thought we ought to do something in terms of naming this after Mitch. And so I was proud and honored to be able to take the lead up in the House to start that. Literally to do something like this takes an act of Congress. which is what we had to do to work with the Corps of Engineers, get this project done. We were able to get that done, passed through the House in September of last year, and with Senator Moran's help, get it through the Senate as well in December, and the President signed it into law last December. So it's a monumental thing to change what was the Wichita-Valley Center flood control project over to be the MS Mitch Mitchell Floodway. Yeah. I do want to introduce Mitch's wife, Pat's here. Pat, could you, actually, would you come up here? Would you do that? So I have a plaque here. Actually, it's the bill that a signed copy of the bill by the President that we actually ran through Congress that made this, renaming this for the MS Mitch Mitchell Floodway. So thank y'all for coming out today and recognizing the honor that's due Mitch for all the work that he did for our community. And so with that, I'd like to introduce my friend and colleague who helped make this happen, Senator Jerry Moran.
Mrs. Mitchell, I share your sentiment. I watched as you were assisted coming to the front. Her words that she whispered to herself, "I hate having to have help." I share those sentiments especially, but it's a typical Kansan. The way we look at things is we want to get things done. We want to do them on our own. One of the things I recognize from my circumstance is that none of us are capable of getting things done on our own. We all need the help and assistance of lots of people. And I would say today exemplifies that nature of that reality in Wichita and Sedgwick County, where people have to come together in order to accomplish something of great value. And in this instance, having to come together at a time in which the value was not known by many people. And those are hard things for elected officials. It's hard things for public servants to put together a plan that is not widely supported by constituents, by citizens. And so it's an honor for me to be here to recognize this community, the communities of Sedgwick County, the county, for making a long-term decision that wasn't necessarily popular with everyone, and the benefits accrue to everyone today. I grew up in the part of Kansas in which I never saw water in this river. I have had no concerns about flood in my life, in my personal life, but we see time and time again the tremendous damage that can be done to individuals, to families, to homes, to businesses, and the foresight that took place now a long time ago by Mitch and others is worthy of our recognition today, and I appreciate you being here. I commend the County Commission and its chairman. I commend the City Council and its mayor for the desire to recognize a public servant. Sometimes it seems to me that maybe elected officials think they are the ones that are so important, but it's often the ones that work in city government, that work in county government, those who help us accomplish our goals, that don't get the recognition they deserve. And Mitch is receiving recognition that he is so worthy of. Wes told me that this is the place where Mitch's remains are, scattered over this river. I'm not sure I'm supposed to tell that because Wes told me it was illegal to do it. But we gather in a place in which Mitch exists. His life was remembered, and we gather among friends and family and community that recognize his value as a human being to others. I especially want to point out maybe I should say why I'm in the circumstance I'm in. I thought the helicopter that was hovering above me in Arizona on Camelback Mountain was there to rescue me. No, it was Channel 5 Phoenix News to film me. So if you haven't seen a video that I hope none of you would ever see, I was on my way to the border. I had an hour to utilize what I thought would be exercise, and I wanted to see sunrise at Camelback Mountain. I made it up. I almost made it down and twisted my ankle, fractured my ankle, tore all 3 ligaments, and I'm non-weight bearing for 6 to 8 weeks. Tomorrow, the 4th of July, is the 5th anniversary. What I take from that, again, is how important other people are in our lives, but how fortunate I am. There's many people who have struggled with many things, but I did not want in any way me to miss the opportunity to share this moment with you. And I want to take the last few seconds that I have to tell you how much I value Ron Estes and how much you ought to recognize his unending effort to see this accomplished. He's right when he says this takes an act of Congress. You may have noticed, and many of you may believe, that getting Congress to agree on anything has become nearly impossible. Even things that ought to be simple are difficult. The partisan nature of Washington, D.C. has increased, and Ron Estes had a mission that he was committed to accomplishing. And while I'm honored to have led this effort in the Senate, it is Ron Estes that made this happen. It is Ron Estes that recognized the importance of getting it accomplished, and it is Ron Estes that called me every day to say, can you get this through the Senate? And I'm very appreciative of him including me in this effort, and to be here with him in Wichita to recognize certainly the person that we are honoring today, but also to recognize that when people do roll up their sleeves, when Ron Estes rolled up his sleeves, things that were important to this community were accomplished. And I congratulate him and thank him, and he's a great ally and asset in our efforts to make Washington, D.C. work for the people of Kansas. Thank you all for the opportunity to join you here today, and congratulations to you, Pat, and to your husband, and to the recognition that this community extends to you and your family.